Welcome. This is the first of some videos that I'm going to start doing. And basically, they're based on the disappointments that I've had in hip hop culture. And there's been quite a few, I would say. Well, enough of them to share, definitely. Um, Here's the first one that I want to share with you. The year is 1987, 87, 88, somewhere in there. And I'm in my hometown town of Milwaukee, high schooler, and one of the big stores that was popular back then was TJ Maxx. You had TJ Maxx, you had Ross, but TJ Maxx was really popular because, just like now, you could go in there and get a lot of name brand stuff, really cool stuff for discounted prices. So one day I'm in TJ Maxx and I see the illest Fila suit that I've ever seen. It was really cool. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was somewhere in the $10 to $15 range. Now, I'm not a big guy, and this suit was definitely larger than what would fit me properly. But I swiftly bought it, took it home, and I began the alterations on it, if you will. One of the main things that I had to do, probably the biggest thing I had to do, was I had to alter the pants part because they were a lot longer and they were a lot wider than what properly would fit me. So I just remember like taking in the seams, like maybe an inch or two, sewing it or whatever. I don't recall like having to hem the bottom of the pants, but you know how most sweatsuits, at least back then, there was elastic around the bottom, so they wouldn't really go anywhere below your ankles. So I didn't have to do much in terms of hemming, but I definitely had to take up the seams, the inner seams, and definitely I had to pull the bottoms up a little bit so that the overlap would kind of fall and go right over my sneakers. Now, after doing all of these alterations and putting them on, here's where like the disappointment comes in. Now, at the time, I was living with my older sister and her husband, and opposed to being maybe a sister figure, she was more like a parental figure because that's really how the arrangement was. So she was questioning me about this sweatsuit that I'm wearing, and she kind of noticed that it was a little bigger than it maybe should have been. And so she started questioning me about this, where did I get it, and how much did I pay, and why does it look like that? And I explained to her that, yeah, it was a little larger, but I did some alterations on it, blah, 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 so that it could actually fit me. Well, she kind of went off on a whole tantrum about, no, you don't buy clothes that don't fit you, and this, that, and the other thing, and blah, blah, blah. You take that back and you return it, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just like, huh? And she's like, you take that back to the store and return it and get that money back and blah, 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 blah. You don't wear clothes like that. You don't wear clothes you got to fix on and this, that, and blah, 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 blah. I was pissed. I was absolutely pissed off. Now, let me explain to you exactly why I was pissed, or why I was pissed to that extent, because it was extremely disappointing. Now, keep in mind, this is the mid 80s, and Fila, at least in that period, was known as a brand that was very expensive, and usually the only people you saw wearing that kind of stuff were wealthy people. You might go back to some of the movies back then, and you might see some rich guy, walking around his mansion, and he's got like a Fila sweatsuit on. They were very expensive. In fact, the only place that I ever saw him outside of various movies or whatever was in rap music, fashion, and culture. So you would see the rappers wearing them, and you knew that they were a lot of money. Now I will say this: the first Fila sneakers, when they finally appeared in Milwaukee, at Foot Locker, they were just the low top, all white with the stripe, and the stripe was like red and blue. Remember those that first model that came out? That was it when they first came. When they first got to Milwaukee, all you had was that one sneaker, and they were $75. And I'm talking 1986, 87 that this was going on. So, needless to say, I never owned a pair, not anywhere near, that era. And I remember specifically when the sweatsuits first made it to Milwaukee. They were at Foot Locker. And the Foot Lockers back then, the way they were set up was you go in and the cash register was all the way to the back of the store center, all the way to the back. So above the register and all of that, there was this area way up high, you couldn't reach it, and that's where they had the two Fila suits hanging. They only had two. That was it. And they were both hanging up on each side, out of reach, so where nobody could touch them. And one of them was $300. 1980, this was 87, 88. The other one was $350. So they were not affordable by a long shot. Not that I ever, had a chance of or ever considered maybe owning one. That was out of the question. And I remember the colors were like blue. I remember both of them had some type of blue in it. I think one was like blue and red or something. But they were both dark colored outfits. But everybody, all the high school kids, and they would go in there just to look at them and be like, wow, look at that. Look at that Fila suit. Boo. Nobody has seen one in person for the most part. Okay, so when I find this Fila suit in TJ Maxx, obviously, you can imagine how excited I was. And for it to be, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere around $15. I might be off. It might have been a little bit more, but not enough to say no to. It definitely wasn't any more than 25, $30, if even. So here's the other reason why this was so disappointing. Not only was it a Fila suit, it was the exact same style, the exact same model Fila suit that Steady B wore on his very first album cover. This was the suit that I saw at TJ Maxx. Now, this isn't either of the ones that was hanging up in Foot Locker, but this was the very one that was in TJ Maxx. And as far as I'm concerned, at least back then, this was the illest Fila suit, period. End of story, because Steady B was wearing it. So not only did I see this cool Fila suit, but I immediately recognized it from this cover. Now this is the What's My Name 12-inch. However, if we take a look at the actual, no, this is the album, I'm sorry. That's the album, What's My Name. But if we look at the actual 12-inch of What's My Name, we get a full view of what that suit looks like. And this suit fit me a little bit more baggier than you would see here. The jacket was definitely a bit bigger, and the pants were definitely a bit wider. I'm not a huge guy, but this was the suit. You know, imagine that. Imagine seeing one of your favorite rappers wear an outfit that you know you have no chance of ever being able to afford. And then you find that exact outfit at the store for a price that most anybody can afford. So when my sister made me take this suit back, I was livid. I was absolutely just overwhelmed with anger because, as far as I was concerned at the time, this was like a once in a lifetime chance of owning something like this. So I took it back to the store. I got my money back. Unfortunately, there was no way for me to keep it or hide it or anything like that because I didn't know what the follow up would have been. I don't recall any follow up, but that was that. So yeah, can you believe that? Can you can you believe that? So yeah, this was a very disappointing moment for me in hip hop culture, and I wanted to share that moment with you. So that's it. Let me know if you dig stories like this, or if you're feeling this, or what kind of disappointing stories that maybe you've had. This was crazy. It was crazy. It's still when I think about it to this day. So yeah, that's what I want to share with you guys on this one. This was disappointing moments in hip hop. I'm Daryl D. Thanks for hanging out. Until next time, peace and love.